This is the MMA Plug powered by DenverSportsBetting.com, your one-stop shop for all Colorado sports. Check them out, DenverSportsBetting.com. If you haven't checked them out, you need to. Ron Kruck and Jordan Kurtz with you once again. Jordan, as we gear up for our 6th UFC preview in as many weeks, the machine keeps rolling on. I do want to take a moment, though, away from MMA and point out our local sports teams are in a much better place than they were last week when we recorded this preview. The Nuggets erased that 3-1 deficit to the Jazz and win the series in 7. And the Avs have clawed their way back to force a Game 7 with Dallas. I believe, Jordan, it was our positive can-do attitude that turned it around for our hometown team. So well done, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I think that I would like to say that, or like to think that we had a role in that. You know, I mean, they didn't make it easy on us. They put every last bit of stressor on the cardiac system there, especially with the way that that last shot in that Nuggets game rimmed out. I mean,
man.
Oh my God, you want to talk about being on pins and needles.
Exactly. It was brutal, but and then to see that 17-point lead go down and actually fall behind was brutal too. Let's hope that the Avs can complete the comeback and get it done as they enter into Game 7. But, you know, speaking of comeback, the UFC is returning for another event inside the UFC Apex in Las Vegas this Saturday. UFC Fight Night Overeem versus Sakai, a.k.a. UFC on ESPN Plus 34. Also known as UFC Vegas 9. So I hope you got all that, Jordan.
Also known as, a.k.a. also known as. There's so many different names for the cards. It's hard to keep track of them anymore.
I'm telling you, in 6 straight weeks of events, I mean, this is unbelievable. It's truly an MMA fan's dream. So the big boys, Jordan, get marquee billing for this one. Former Strikeforce, K1 and Dream champion Alistair Overeem participates in his 65th professional fight. Unbelievable. When he meets the surging prospect Augusto Sakai, who is 15-1-1, you may want to wear some protective headgear while watching this one because there's a good chance we could witness a spectacular knockout. Latest odds, Jordan, as we record this preview from DenverSportsBetting.com and DraftKings, have the Dutch kickboxer legend Alistair Overeem. He's a -150 favorite, and the comeback on the younger Sakai is +125. Jordan, you know, the never-ending roller coaster career of the 40-year-old Overeem continues, and just when you think Father Time's caught up with the Reem, he knocks someone's head off their shoulders. He's won 3 out of 4, and he's been doing it for years. You know, he will KO his opponent or he will get KO'd. He has 24 skull-crushing knockout wins, and he's been on the receiving end of 14. On the flip side, the 29-year-old Sakai knows a little something about devastating knockouts too. He's scored 11 knockouts in his 15 victories, and he's won 5 straight. Began his career 10-0. Jordan, seems like we have another one of those matchups between the old gatekeeper of the division and a prospect looking to add a big-name victim to his resume. Give us your take on this matchup.
You hit the nail on the head with it right there. This is that guy who is, you know, Alistair said it himself. I believe it was this morning on his Instagram post where he said that he's basically, you know, he's saddling up and mounting for one last final ride. You know, one last final ride toward UFC gold. He did have a UFC title fight a couple of years back against Stipe Miocic, and he's just trying to get himself back within that title consideration. Alistair is one of those guys that he has all of the tools to be a champion. The biggest question mark for Alistair, I feel like, is always going to be, you know, it's the elephant in the room. It's his chin. It's will he be able to maintain for 25 minutes or until he gets a finish and not weather that, you know, that lights out blow, essentially. Because if you remember back to just the previous fight before the Walt Harris comeback against Jairzinho Rosenstrike, he won basically, you know, 24 plus minutes of that fight.
Exactly.
He won it and handled that fight well. Now, that being said, he had the power to, or Jairzinho Rosenstrike had the power to be able to shift gears. late on in the fight. That's something that Sakai also has, and that's something that has to be taken into account when you're placing your wagers and on these lines, is that Sakai has the ability to change anybody's night within one single shot.
Yep.
And we've already seen that on a COVID card this year.
Great points. Yeah, this is a fun matchup. Could end really quickly. You look at Overeem, the devastating power, the solid kickboxing background, incredible experience and resume. But you're exactly right. Recently, he's shown the chin is not what it used to be. But I mean, the guy doesn't seem like he ages. It's, I mean, I remember going to when he was with the Dream promotion and flying over with him to Japan, and the guy hasn't changed at all. It's unbelievable. He just is one of those guys that seems to keep bouncing back when people have said he's done. When he says that he is looking at one more run to that UFC gold, that intrigues me a little bit. He understands he's not that young man anymore. But, you know, Sakai, Jordan, he's got some wins over some MMA heavyweight pioneers, Arlovsky and Ivanov as well. But to me, this seems like a big step up in competition for the Bellator heavyweight, who has done very well in the UFC since he moved over. 4 in a row, won the contract on the Contender Series. You know, his only loss was a razor-thin split decision to Czech Congo. So this is the fight that will prove if he's ready for the next level and can become a true threat in the heavyweight division. The X factor for me, of course, cage experience. Overeem has 47 more professional bouts than Sakai, but also the factor that keeps coming to me, Jordan, is that Overeem is still that seasoned grappler. You know, he's won a lot of fights via submission. He spent a lot more time on the mat than Sakai. That could be a factor as we go to our picks now. So, Jordan, I'll put the spotlight on you. Who you got?
I'm going to throw caution to the wind with this one. Give me the hometown guy, Elevation Fight Team's Alistair Overeem. You mentioned that he does also have very seasoned grappling. He is not only just a seasoned grappler, he is a world champion grappler back in the day. So you pair those couple of things together, I think that you'll see some similarities to his game plan against somebody who was a big puncher like Rosenstrike. He's going to try to utilize that offensive wrestling and his jiu-jitsu to be able to neutralize the striking.
Great pick. I'm with you on that one. I think 2 heavy-handed heavyweights that can end a fight in a blink of an eye. That's the other X factor. You know, I think it's a good chance the judges can just sit back and enjoy this, because I don't think it's going to the judges' scorecards in this one. You know, if Sakai loses, he still gains some pretty valuable experience to get against the veteran. But here's Reem. He needs a win. And if he wants to make one more run at that heavyweight title, he needs to get a victory. You know, if John Jones goes into the heavyweight division as advertised right now, what about that matchup? The veteran Overeem and John Jones. God, I would love to see that. But, you know, Sakai's got that Muay Thai base. He uses some standard striking. He'll try to close the distance. But I think he'll have to watch the clinch work of Overeem. And we've seen some of those Overeem knees from that position just destroy an opponent. The ground game being the X factor as well. But I'm going to go with the old man, Overeem, getting it done. Closing odds as of this recording from DenverSportsBetting.com. Alistair Overeem is the favorite at -160, and the comeback on Augusto Sakai +130. Well, this is the MMA Plug, sponsored by DenverSportsBetting.com. If you haven't checked these guys out, you need to get to DenverSportsBetting.com for the latest on all your Colorado teams. The Nuggets, the Avalanche, the Rockies, the Broncos, Buffs, Rams, Falcons, you name it. And, of course, UFC previews just like this one. Ron Kruck along with Jordan Kurtz as we break down the UFC Fight Night Overeem versus a Sakai card, UFC on ESPN Plus, number 34. All right, Jordan, co-main event. This one is going to be fun. They teased us, and then the fight got canceled, and more details on that. But we got the young up-and-comer in Alonzo Menefield taking on another gatekeeper for the light heavyweight division, Ovince St. Peru. You know, when I look at this card, Jordan, it kind of reminds me of my old days at CU Boulder when we would scrape enough money together to eat at the old Furs cafeteria, where you could choose from, and you're too young, you probably don't even know what that is, but you could choose from a variety of foods just pretty much thrown together. I mean, this card is filled with fights from every weight class possible. You got the men, you got the women, fights that have been rescheduled, rebooked, redone for various reasons. But just like Furs, this card may look like it's been sloppily thrown together, but sometimes that's a good thing. So we get this co-main event where Ovince St. Peru and Alonzo Menefield run it back for a fight that was originally planned for a month ago, postponed after OSP tested positive for COVID-19. Menefield took that original fight, Jordan, on only 9 days' notice, which I thought was a massive advantage for the veteran Ovince St. Peru. Now Menefield has much more time to prep. We got a battle here between two former high-level football players. Jordan, give us your take on this co-main event, which should be a lot of fun.
Let me strike it for the record that I love Furs. Their macaroni
yes,
and
my man.
cornbread, phenomenal. Absolutely love it. But moving on as far as the fight goes, a lot of my thoughts, Ron, they really haven't changed from the last time when it was originally paired up. But the one thing that I do think is going to be an interesting element that gets brought into this, one of the main points that we discussed last time was the conditioning element and how the lung capacity and the cardio may have been affected for somebody like a Menefield. But being that OSP tested positive for COVID, you know, what is the effects? You know, it's still something I just feel like with the virus is such an unknown and how it affects individuals long term post recovery and once they test clear. As big as he is, that's always going to be a factor. I think fatigue is always going to be something that comes into question for guys that are as just muscled up and as large a human beings as Alonzo Menefield and OSP are. So I think that this one ultimately is going to be a battle of, or the winner, I should say, is who gets less tired.
Yep. That's a great point. You know, as we get the setup for this co-main event, basically you have the former title challenger in Ovince St. Peru going back to the light heavyweight division where he's previously spent most of his professional MMA career. Menefield, who is fighting for the first time since he suffered his first pro defeat to Devin Clark. Both of these guys need a win. The current odds from DenverSportsBetting.com and DraftKings, they haven't really changed, Jordan, from the first fight. I'm looking at the first fight had Menefield was the favorite at -135. His current odds are pretty much right there, -134 right now. So come back on the veteran Ovince St. Peru, +116 for him in the first fight. He's down to a +110. Again, these odds coming in from DenverSportsBetting.com and DraftKings. So not much has changed despite the fact that Menefield has more time to prep. Again, he comes into this fight. He's 9 wins, 8 by way of knockout. He's shown some massive power in his punches. He's 9-0 or 9-1 overall, 2-1 in the UFC. One of those guys who has a chance to really make a name for himself with a victory. Coming off the loss, as I said, to Clark, that was the first fight of his career to reach the 3rd round. And as you very well pointed out, he showed some signs of conditioning issues in that contest. You look at Menefield, dude, he is a specimen. I mean, the huge muscles, and of course, huge muscles mean a lot of oxygen will be used, and he risks that issue of gassing out. You know, he really has shown he has the one punch knockout. He's, you know, he's young, he's athletic, but that cardio seems to drain after that first round. On the flip side, listen, Ovince St. Preux has been doing this a long time, 38 professional fights. You know, it was an unsuccessful move to heavyweight. I give him credit for trying it. Lost to a very game and veteran fighter in Ben Rothwell. So he moves back down to 205 in kind of a desperate time. You know, he's lost 3 out of 4 fights, but, you know, he's been doing this a long time in that division, 7 years now. And what I think the X factor is going into this game, again, as I mentioned in the main event, is kind of his unorthodox submissions. This is a big man who has got some incredible submissions, including some rare Von Flue chokes. So dangerous BJJ game. You know, his experience is on his side. The ground game is on his side, but you know, on the flip side, he's not getting any younger, and sometimes his slow starts can come back to haunt him too. So it's a interesting matchup. Let's get to the pick. I'll tee you up. Who do you like in this one, Jordan?
I'm going to stay with the veteran. I'm going to stay with OSP in this matchup. I think that he just has, you know, he just has too much of an experience factor within this fight. I think that his veteran savvy is going to pull through with him on this side. He'll utilize that grappling. It's not just the fact that he's a submission artist. It's that he's a quality grappler overall, as far as with that weight class goes. So I think that his best course of action is to not risk getting into a firefight with somebody like a Menefield. But, you know, that's not to say that we don't see a late round TKO or, you know, late second into third once he wears him out and gets him tired. He might have to get it a little bit dirty for the first, you know, 8 minutes of the fight just to make sure that gas tank is depleted for the big muscled up Menefield.
Right.
But once he drags him into those deep waters, sometimes a shark can eat.
Well said. You know, originally Menefield took this fight on only 9 days notice. That was one of the reasons when we first set up this matchup. I really liked OSP. I think it was a big advantage for the veteran fighter. Now the younger fighter in Menefield gets a month longer to prepare for this matchup. I think that will help Menefield a lot. But when I break this down, again, I think it's a easy path to victory for both fighters. Whoever can implement that game plan will get the win. Menefield with that knockout power, OSP with his submissions. I think despite that extra training time, St. Preux is going to grind out and wear down Menefield. Once he gets tired as the fight goes on, I think that's when St. Preux will jump on him. Again, Menefield always has that one punch and that ability to end the fight in an instant. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to go with the more experienced fighter, Ovince St. Preux, sitting at plus 116 right now. I'll take my chances with the underdog. Again, denversportsbetting.com powers the MMA plug. The current odds as of this recording, the favorite in this fight in the co-main event is Alonzo Menefield, minus 135, and the comeback on Ovince St. Preux, a plus 116. This is the MMA Plug with Jordan Kurtz and Ron Kruck. Each week we break down the UFC events for the weekend, and we've been doing this for 6 straight weeks. It's been fantastic. The UFC just back to back to back to back, and you get it, events. It's been fantastic as we prepare now for the next event with UFC Fight Night, Sakai and Overeem. Jordan, time of the show where we pick out a fight or a fighter to keep an eye on. Some intriguing matchups really in this card. Again, as I said earlier, some fights that were scheduled that had to be rebooked for various reasons. So a lot of fighters have had a time to prepare for their opponents. Some young up-and-comers as well looking to make a name for themselves, some veteran guys and girls holding on to try to to continue their careers. Give us your spotlight this week on a fight or a fighter to keep an eye on.
Ron, like you mentioned, there's a ton of different intriguing matchups and fighters on this card. I mean, there's a few that you could point at that they have the wow factor. But the one that I'm going to present for you today, it's a UFC debutant. This is a guy who not a lot are going to know who he is just because he doesn't have a whole lot of hype behind him to start. But he is an undefeated heavyweight. It is Alexander King Kong Romanov. This guy is nasty. He is 11-0. He has finished every single fight. He has wins by slam. He has forearm chokes, wins by punches. This guy is nasty. He brings his action over to the UFC for his debut in the heavyweight division. His first fight, he had a couple of canceled bouts. He was recently scheduled to go up against Marcin Tybura. So if you're in the category of going up against a guy who has a resume and is that savvy of a veteran like him right away, that means that the UFC thinks that you have some sauce to you, because they're not just going to throw you to the wolves right away. Vision where they're potentially built with an aging champion situation. I think that he is going to come out and he has the potential to not only put on a great performance, but he could possibly earn a $50,000 performance bonus in his UFC debut.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, he is a beast. He's taking on Rogerio de Lima, but not many fighters from where is he from?
Moldova.
Moldova. Yeah. I mean, you don't see that too often, which is really cool. I love the pick. It's a guy that we should definitely keep an eye on, Jordan. For me, the fight to watch, I'm going with the women's bantamweights and Carol Rosa and Sajara Eubanks, two Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts meeting in kind of a desperate time for one of them, and an opportunity for the other to prove that she belongs in this division. So Sajara Eubanks, she was the surprise finalist on The Ultimate Fighter when they were going to crown their first flyweight champion. Eubanks impressed everyone getting to that final against Nico Montano. Unfortunately, she had issues cutting weight, and they were very severe that she had to be hospitalized, pulled from the fight, experienced kidney failure, a very scary deal for Eubanks. And those issues really with the weight cutting have essentially forced her to bantamweight, where she is 1-2. And she doesn't have that size or strength to truly dominate people like she did in the lower division. Big time cardio concerns for Eubanks. On the flip side is Rosa, 25 years old, a 13-3 record, 4 wins in a row, very well-rounded. She has 4 wins by knockout, 2 submission, a lot by decision. But I enjoy watching her fight. She comes out firing. In her first fight, her and her opponent, I think, threw over 650 combined strikes. It was like you put these two women in a blender and just hit blend. It was crazy. She'll throw punches and she'll eat punches, and that's kind of her style. But, I think in this fight, her ability to throw volume and kind of set the pace will be the difference against the physically strong Eubanks. But I think this is a desperation fight for Eubanks, which makes her dangerous. That's always a tough spot to be in. But I'm going with Rosa in this one. It's not going to be easy. Even though she's 10 years younger, she's more experienced. She has a lot more fights. And I think that Carla Rosa is one of those prospects to keep an eye on, that she, with a win, could take that step up in a division dominated by her fellow Brazilian champion, Amanda Nunes. The odds coming in right now, according to denversportsbetting.com, Rosa is the favorite, just a minor favorite, though, minus 130. Comeback on Eubanks is a plus 100. That should be an interesting fight in my opinion, Jordan.
I agree. And for everything that you mentioned, that is the reasons why we need to keep an eye on her as an upcoming prospect at only 25 years old and having the success that she's had. But I'm going to go on the opposite side of the coin this time here, and I'm going to go with Sarge. I think that Sarge, yes, she may not have the the totality as far as the fights go, but if you take a look at some of the names on her resume, I mean, she had part of one of those losses, that you mentioned was a very, very tough fight against Aspen Ladd, who was a tough top contender within the division.
Most definitely.
So when you take those things into account, I think that you might see another one of these situations of that savvy vet is able to rely on their durability, their experience, and just maybe pull out a couple of wrinkles or throw a couple of new things out there to the young bull coming at them that they might not have seen before. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Sijara Eubanks in this one.
Well, it's about time we disagree on something. Come on, this show's we're too nice. I mean, we got to slow down a little bit, dude.
A little bit of adversity.
Hey, last week we were on fire. I think we agreed on 2 of the 3 picks, and then we hit on both those. And then I know your pick came in. I know my pick came in. So every so often we get lucky. No, it's just the way we break them down. If we agree, we agree, and if we disagree, we're going to let each other know, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All right, Jordan. Well, great job as always. Should be a fun night of fights if you can before you check out the UFC on Saturday. The LFA continues to roll on. We've got a fight on Friday night exclusively on UFC Fight Pass. It is our 7th fight in about 9 weeks. So we've been powering through. Check it out. We got the bantamweight title on the line between a karate expert in Ricky Steele, undefeated at 6-0, and 12-0. Zviad Lazashvili comes in. It should be a great matchup. Grappler versus striker, and 2 undefeated fighters, which Jordan means someone's has got to go.
That's going to be an incredibly interesting matchup to watch just because of those contrasting styles. I think that it's if Zviad Zavash, I'm butchering the name.
Yep.
I'm so sorry, my man.
You got it. No,
I promise I'm representing
you right. It's tough.
But that guy's solid, man. He fought one of my teammates, Josh Huber, last year for you guys at LFA 79, and Josh is as game as it gets, as tough as it gets,
100%. And
the way that he was able to employ his game plan against someone who has the experience that Josh did, that makes me think that kid is for real.
Yeah, absolutely. Tough as they come. Should be a fun matchup. That's Friday night, LFA number 90 on UFC Fight Pass, followed by UFC Fight Night. That will be on ESPN Plus. Thank you so much for checking out the MMA Plug. We are sponsored by DenverSportsBetting.com. Check them out. They are your one-stop shop for all Colorado sports. Check them out, DenverSportsBetting.com. Jordan, great job as always, my man. Enjoy the fights this weekend.
You as well.